Tonight is not arriving to destroy you, it is arriving to confront everything that has been quietly holding you back. Before this night is over, something you have carried for far too long will finally be exposed. You may think the greatest punishment is meant for another person, but what if the first thing being challenged is every fear, every lie, and every burden that has convinced you that you could never move forward? That changes everything, doesn't it? The title of this message is not about revenge. It is about justice, truth, and the moment when hidden things can no longer remain hidden. There are seasons when silence seems endless, when wrong appears to go unnoticed, and when patience feels impossible. But every season has an ending, and every hidden truth eventually reaches the light. Tonight carries that kind of significance. The events you once called delays may have been preparation. The disappointments you thought were meaningless may have been building the strength you would need for this exact moment. Don't skip. There is one revelation waiting ahead that connects every unanswered question you've carried, and once you hear it, the entire story will begin to make sense. But before that happens, you must understand why this night feels different from every other night you've experienced. For a long time, you have looked outward, searching for answers in circumstances, people, and opportunities. Yet the greatest turning points rarely begin outside of us. They begin with a moment of unmistakable clarity. Think about every time you doubted yourself because someone else underestimated you. Think about every opportunity you almost abandoned because fear sounded louder than hope. Those moments did not define your future, but they tried to shape it. Every challenge placed before you demanded a decision. Would you allow disappointment to become your identity, or would you let it become your teacher? Most people never realize that life's greatest victories are often born from its quietest battles. They expect dramatic signs while overlooking the steady transformation already taking place inside them. Tonight is a reminder that truth has remarkable power. It separates fear from wisdom, confusion from direction, and temporary setbacks from lasting purpose. The greatest punishment of this season is not aimed at a person, it is aimed at every false belief that has tried to keep you small. Doubt loses its influence when truth enters the room. Hopelessness loses its strength when purpose becomes clear. Discouragement loses its voice when courage decides to stand. That is why this night matters. It is not because everything around you changes instantly, but because everything within you begins to change first. And once that happens, the world around you starts looking completely different. Yet there is one hidden piece of this story that almost nobody notices until it transforms everything they believed about their own journey. And that discovery is closer than you think. Now imagine waking tomorrow with a peace that no circumstance can steal. Imagine realizing that the battles which once exhausted you have actually prepared you for opportunities you never thought possible. What if every difficult chapter was strengthening qualities that success alone could never teach? Patience, wisdom, compassion, endurance, confidence that does not depend on approval. These are treasures that cannot be rushed, and they are often formed in seasons that feel ordinary while they are happening. Stay till the end, because the next part reveals why some of life's greatest breakthroughs arrive immediately after its most challenging nights. There is a reason certain doors remained closed. There is a reason some answers took longer than expected. There is a reason you are hearing these words at this very moment. Something huge is waiting for you, but it is not what most people expect. The greatest victory is not watching fear grow stronger, it is watching fear lose its grip. It is seeing truth replace confusion, hope replace discouragement, and purpose replace uncertainty. And when that final revelation arrives, you may discover that the night you expected to bring punishment was actually preparing you for the most powerful turning point of your entire journey. The moment you realize what is truly being confronted tonight, every painful memory begins to look different. For years, you may have believed that your greatest struggle was the obstacle standing in front of you. But what if the real obstacle was the invisible weight you carried inside, fear disguised as caution, disappointment disguised as reality, and doubt disguised as wisdom? Those hidden burdens have quietly influenced your choices for far too long. They convinced you to stay silent when you should have spoken, to hesitate when you should have stepped forward, and to settle when something greater was waiting just beyond your comfort zone. But tonight, those burdens are losing their influence. They cannot remain where truth is allowed to enter. Think about the moments you almost gave up. Think about the dreams you nearly buried because nothing seemed to be changing. Now imagine if you had walked away just one step before the breakthrough you had been waiting for. That possibility changes everything. Sometimes the greatest victory comes only after the longest season of waiting, and the reason is simple: your character was being strengthened long before your circumstances were ready to change. That is why this message found you now and not months ago. You were not ready then. But tonight, your perspective is beginning to shift, and when perspective changes, everything else starts moving in a new direction. Before we continue, if these words are speaking to your heart, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more messages like this, and share it with someone who needs encouragement tonight. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Which sentence has stayed with you the most so far? Your words could become the encouragement another person has been searching for. Now comes the revelation almost no one expects. The greatest punishment is rarely loud. It is not dramatic. It is the quiet collapse of every false belief that has controlled your decisions. Imagine waking up tomorrow without the constant need to prove yourself to people who never truly understood your journey. Imagine no longer measuring your worth by closed doors, delayed answers, or temporary setbacks. That freedom is more powerful than any outward success because it cannot be taken away by changing circumstances. The people who underestimated you no longer control your confidence. The opinions that once made you question yourself lose their power. The disappointments that once felt permanent become chapters instead of conclusions. Suddenly, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "What was this preparing me for?" That single question transforms every challenge into a lesson instead of a defeat. Every delay becomes preparation. Every setback becomes wisdom. Every difficult season becomes evidence that you were growing stronger while you thought nothing was happening. This is why so many people miss their greatest turning point. They spend all their energy looking for immediate results instead of recognizing the quiet transformation already taking place within them. But you are no longer seeing your life through that limited perspective. Tonight marks the moment when confusion begins giving way to clarity, when uncertainty begins giving way to confidence, and when fear begins giving way to quiet, unshakable hope. The story is changing, even if the world around you has not caught up to it yet. But don't think you've reached the biggest revelation, because the most unforgettable moment is still ahead. There is one final truth that connects every unanswered prayer, every unexpected delay, every painful goodbye, and every impossible situation into one extraordinary purpose. It is the truth that explains why your hardest seasons never had the final word. The chapters that tested your patience were also building your endurance. The moments that stretched your faith were preparing you to carry greater responsibility. The nights that felt silent were teaching you to recognize peace even when answers had not yet arrived. One day, you will look back and realize that what felt like punishment was actually preparation, what looked like rejection was often protection, and what seemed like an ending was quietly becoming a beginning. Hold on to that thought, because the next part uncovers the final piece of the journey, the promise that ties together every struggle, every victory, and every unexpected twist you've experienced. Once that final truth is revealed, you will never see your past, your present, or your future in the same way again.